Pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. All of these traits make up the 7 deadly sins, and they represent immoral behaviour. So I thought it would be a cool idea to figure out which sin would belong to which Marvel character. If you like this type of content, then be sure to like and subscribe for more. Pride. Now, which Marvel character represents pride to a T? And in my opinion, it has to go to Doctor Doom. I was originally thinking of putting him in envy, but I decided to go with pride, and I'll explain why. Let me tell you something. Besides Vegeta, I don't think there's any other character in fiction that's more prideful than Doctor Doom. You have to remember the whole reason why Victor is Doctor Doom in the first place is because he was too prideful to listen to Reed when he told him that the machine Victor was going to use to communicate with his dead mom wasn't going to work. Instead of listening to him and admitting that he was wrong, he said F it and decided to turn the machine on, resulting in him scarring his face. But depending on the continuity, sometimes it's a massive scar that disfigures him, or sometimes it's a little scar that you can't even tell what's happened to him really. Me personally, I prefer the continuity where he has a tiny scar on his face because it just shows how big Doctor Doom's ego really is. Because he couldn't tolerate a single imperfection on his appearance, he decided to burn a mask on his face to prove a point, and ever since then he blames Reed for the accident, which is mad to me because Reed is the one who warned him in the first place. Not to mention that Doom's pride follows him wherever he goes. I remember the time Doctor Doom visited another universe that had a parallel version of him in that universe, and everything was perfect, and it was all because Doom forgave Reed for what he did, and the two became friends in this other universe. But the other version of Doom was like,
no.
The fact that it was basically him saying to himself that he was wrong and he needs to admit that he was wrong so that everything can be better for the world just rubbed our version of Doom the wrong way. Our version of Doom was not trying to hear any of that and decided to kill the parallel version of himself and use the ultimate nullifier to destroy the universe he was in. That's just one example out of many that how prideful Doctor Doom has been, and if he's not pride then I don't know what is. Moving on to greed, I was considering Galactus, but I wouldn't consider him greedy. He's only eating planets to keep himself alive. He might be in another category. I was also thinking of the Collector, but I thought that was too obvious and boring of a choice. So the person I think represents greed is Sebastian Shaw, villain of the X-Men. The reason I chose Sebastian Shaw is that he became a self-made millionaire by the age of 20. But did that satisfy him? Nope. Being a mutant who has the power to absorb kinetic energy, which enhances his strength, speed and stamina, he believes that mutants are better than humans and wants world domination, but he doesn't do it the Magneto way, where gathering a bunch of mutants together and taking down the X-Men. No, he joined the Hellfire Club, a secret society of wealthy and powerful elites in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, known for its shadowy schemes and influence over world events. The most popular member besides Sebastian Shaw is probably Emma Frost, who is the White Queen, and Shaw is the Black King. I would say Shaw only uses his money and power to further his own goals, and he views the mutant-human conflict as a tool for his own advancement. Also, just look how he dresses. Alright, to prove how greedy he really is, do you know Sentinels, the killing mutant hunting robots? Yeah, he funded them, not because he was concerned about safety, but just to forward his own goals and to maintain control. Lust. In my opinion, there's only 2 characters that could represent lust in Marvel, and that's She-Hulk and Starfox. And they've both been with each other. But in my opinion, I'm going with Starfox. Listen, one of his powers is to stimulate the brain's pleasure centers, and even though She-Hulk has slept around, Starfox is a different breed. His real name is Eros and he's an Eternal, raised on the Saturn moon of Titan by his father. Eros had an optimistic outlook on life, which was the opposite compared to his older brother Thanos. For years, Eros wandered in search of sensual pleasure. He gained a reputation of a carefree and womanizing young man, famous for breaking multiple hearts and living recklessly. His adventures became quite renowned in Titan, although his laid-back personality also made him very popular. He was also the centre of one of Marvel's most controversial comic book storylines. After a married woman accused him of using his pleasure-stimulating powers on her, he goes to a trial, accused of SA. Mentor, who is his dad, hires Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk, to defend him. However, She-Hulk doesn't trust Starfox, believing that he did the same thing to her. This is how you know he's just a lustful person. He himself said he lost count of how many women he slept with. Like I said earlier, he slept with She-Hulk, but he's also slept with Captain Marvel, Tigra, and Monica Rambeau. Yeah, I doubt we'll see Harry Styles be doing any of that in the MCU. I doubt we even see that character ever again actually, now that I think about it. Moving on to envy. Now like I said before, I was going to put Doctor Doom as the character that represents envy, but then I started to think of Loki, and that how he really is the most envious person in Marvel. Let's get this out of the way. Loki is not Asgardian. That's not his true identity. He's a frost giant. His envy is rooted in the fact that he feels like an outsider, and that leads him to resent Thor and the favoritism that Odin shows Thor, and this jealousy only intensifies when Odin gave Thor his hammer Mjolnir. Loki's envy motivates his villainy. That's why in Avengers 1 he was like, I'm not going to be king of Asgard, so I might as well just be king of Earth. I'm going to be king of something, because he was jealous that Thor was going to be the king of Asgard and not him. I know nowadays Loki's not really a villain anymore, he's more of a hero, but the early days of Loki, I would absolutely call him the most envious character in Marvel. Gluttony. Now, at first I was going to go with Galactus as being representing this sin, but as more as I thought about it, again like I said previously, Galactus only eats what he only needs, and I don't think he consumes more than he needs to. Gluttony is described as excess in eating, so the character that I think represents this the most is called the Slug. Now, I had to look up this character for more information, but he definitely fits the requirements. I was also thinking of Blob, but then again, that's just his mutation. That's not, he doesn't eat because of his own dependent will. That's because of his mutation. But Slug, however, listen, I thought the Kingpin Blob were fat. This brother is fat. He's obese. On the Marvel wiki where they list all their abilities and attributes, his abilities are listed as large body. It says Lungman's body is so terribly obese that it was difficult to penetrate enough fat to strike his vital organs. Also, Slug has mastered the rather grotesque talent of suffocating opponents in the folds of his flesh.
Pause! What is that?
What? And you know what's funny? The most hilarious thing is that his weaknesses is that Lugman is particularly helpless against any opponent and depends upon his hired thugs to provide him with security. Yeah, no crap. He's intelligent though, so I have to give him that. Yeah, this is an obvious one. He definitely belongs in Gluttony. Moving on to Wrath. Wrath is described as extreme anger, and I don't think there's any other character that needs to be in the discussion. It's obviously the Hulk. You can pick any moment from the comics, it doesn't matter, but I will say that World Breaker Hulk is probably the youngest we've ever seen him. If you don't know, Hulk was basically banished by the Illuminati, who sent him to Sakaar, and basically he became a gladiator and rose to the top, had a wife and had a kid, Scar, until the ship that the Illuminati sent him there to blew up, killing his wife. Not only did Hulk get vengeance, but he basically defeated the X-Men, the Avengers and the Inhumans. At his peak rage, him just stepping caused earthquakes and nearly destroyed the eastern seaboard. It forced the Sentry to fight Hulk to a standstill. So yeah, there's no question that Hulk is Wrath. I was going to try and be creative to see what other characters could fit in there, but it has to be the Hulk. The last thing we have is Sloth, and this one was kind of hard to figure out what character I was going to put in, but I think it has to go to Mojo. For those of you who don't know Mojo, Mojo is the ruler of Mojo World, a media orientated world that thrives on entertainment. And Mojo produces movies and TV shows so he can keep his people amused, and usually he gets his entertainment by messing with the X-Men. The reason why I put Mojo in Sloth is because number one, it was hard to pick any other character, and number two, he literally doesn't do anything. He depends on other characters providing him his own entertainment for his people. You have to remember the definition of Sloth. It's described as being extremely lazy, and I can't think of a more lazy character than Mojo. Instead of producing movies that don't involve the X-Men, he has no other choice but to do it, because he's that lazy. And that's all the sins. If you think that I made a mistake or this character should have been in this scene, then let me know in the comments. But if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.